Hello, hello. Am I audible? Hello.
Hello, yeah.
Yeah. So good afternoon, ma'am. Today we are going to take a mock-up interview of Yashwardhan Uppal. So yeah, I'll turn on the camera right now. Yes, come. Guru.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi, good afternoon. Just give me a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Let's get started. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh,
Yes.
so, uh, so Ashwant, I would like you to go for with your introduction. Okay. So,
Okay,
can
ma'am.
you go with a quick introduction about you,
Yes,
and then
ma'am.
we can get started.
Hello. Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Yashwardhan Uppal. I have completed my Bachelor's of Science in Aeronautics, which was specialized in avionics. So, avionics is basically the electrical and software side of the aircraft, mostly the cockpit side of aircraft. So after that, I joined ASTEP and I completed, firstly, I completed my aerospace technical publication course at ASTEP. And now I enrolled for the software technical publication course. And currently I worked on a static web page. I made a static web page and currently I am working on the user stories used in a roadmap, basically about the Agile Scrum methodology.
Okay, good. Fine. Thanks for your introduction. Let us go in depth of the questions. Okay.
Okay,
So,
ma'am.
since you mentioned about Agile, right?
Yes.
Can you talk about what is agile, right? What does that means to you?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay,
So,
think that say I'm completely new to agile and you are trying to explain me about it. How do you explain that to me?
okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, Agile Scrum methodology is basically an methodology used in organizations that is used to complete some projects. Like Agile Scrum methodology is a methodology that breaks down into sprints. Sprints means those are period of times used to complete the project. So uh, basically these sprints are like 2 or 3 sprints. Basically organization use 3 sprints, and one sprint consists of some work done to be completed in one sprint, and those sprints keep on going on. And if we are doing a project for a company and if we are working in a agile methodology, so we can keep on getting requirements from the company and we can keep on fulfilling it. There is no specific time for getting the requirements for the company. We can keep on working on it. So that's why most of the organizations nowadays use agile scrum methodology, and because that is very helpful, and all the scrum team, they have their works divided into it so that they can work accordingly. So agile scrum methodology is basically it's the breakup of the project got from the organization, and they are broke into 3 sprints, and one sprint is basically of 3 to 4 weeks, and the work keeps on going on into sprints as the work goes on.
Okay, so why do I need to break it up as a sprint, right? Like you mentioned, it will divide into multiple sprints, and
Yes,
based
ma'am.
upon that, we will. What is the reason behind it? Why we need to do in that? manner?
Ma'am,
What
so basically,
advantages it provide?
oh, okay, ma'am. So if for example we are getting a project from the from a stakeholder, and they have some requirements, so we start doing the requirements in the first sprint. So as we complete our project in the first sprint, we can show it to the stakeholders, and we can get a feedback from them after the first sprint. And if there are any errors or any complications in the first project, so we can get to know that these are the errors, and these errors we can correct it in the second sprint. And we can keep on getting requirements as soon as the sprints go on. So that's why sprints are advantageable, so that we can change the requirements or change the project as per their requirements, and we can keep on getting requirements from them.
Understood.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So so are you aware about waterfall?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Waterfall. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what is the difference between the waterfall and the agile?
Okay, ma'am. So, waterfall model is basically a SDLC model, and waterfall model is also a model to create a project. But the difference between agile and waterfall model is that in agile Scrum methodology, we can get the requirements at any time from the stakeholders. But whereas in the waterfall model, we can get the requirements only at the start of the project, where we have not started the designing yet. Because if we go from a phase to phase, like the first phase in SDLC model is planning phase, and after that comes the requirement analysis, and then the designing stage. So if we have moved to the designing stage, we can't go back to the requirement analysis. We should have all the requirements prior to the start of the project in waterfall model, whereas in agile model, we can get the requirements at any point of the time.
Okay. So what are the phases like in a software development life cycle, right?
Yeah,
Are you
ma'am.
aware about what are the different
Yes,
phases?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Can you talk about that, please?
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, first is the planning phase. The planning phase consists like the planning of all the project, like how the project is going to be done, and how the work is going to be distributed in all the teams. And after the planning phase, then comes the requirement analysis phase. Requirement analysis phase consists basically of gathering the requirements from the stakeholders for which we are going to do the project. So the requirements are we get the requirements into a document called as SRS, software requirement specifications. The requirements are given in that. So requirement analysis is basically the gathering of the requirements for the project. After the requirement analysis, there is the designing phase. The designing phase is basically designing the project given to us, and the work in designing phase is mostly of the developers. So they design the project. After that, there is the implementation and development phase. This also consists of the work of developers. So designing is basically a blueprint of the project, and implementation and development is the implementation of the blueprint to the real project. So after implementation and development process, there is the testing process. So after every development is done, testing is done for the project, so that we can know if there are any bugs in it. And after the testing process, there is the last process, that is deployment and maintenance, where we deploy the project or the software, and we keep on doing the maintenance as per it goes on ahead.
Cool. That good to know, Yash. So you talked about different phases, right? Like each and every phase of it. So when we talk about testing, who are all will be involved into the testing phase?
So, ma'am, in the testing phase, basically the testers, like the developers only, they they try to find the bugs in the project, and if there are any, they try doing the debugging there.
Okay. Once they fix it, what they will do, how the cycle goes again. Say, suppose I find the issue again,
Yes, ma'am.
right? And they are trying to fix the issue, and how again the phases go back. Will it reiterate from the beginning of the process, or how it works?
No, ma'am. Then it will go to the developers, and as soon as they get to know the issue, they try to the developers try to debug it. They try to first identify the issue, that what is the exact issue, and then this goes to the developers, and they do the debugging there, and afterwards it's again tested. If there is no error, then it goes to the deployment and maintenance.
Okay, understood. Okay, now let us go a little bit on the sprint. So you talked about sprints.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you aware about what are the ceremonies in the sprint they follow?
Ceremonies like, ma'am, they follow like sprint planning, in which they plan all the work they are going to do in one sprint.
Okay,
Then, ma'am, there is retrospective also. So
okay,
basically, there is a Scrum Master who gives all the work in the what is going to be done in the sprint in one single sprint. So that all work he gives in the sprint planning, and then sprint retrospective is that
yeah.
they.
So before we move on to the next ceremony,
Yes.
I got to, okay, like the sprint planning, they will plan it. But what are the things, right? How do they plan the sprint? That these are the work they have to take it up as part of. From where they will get all this information? Who will decide this?
So, ma'am, this all information is defined by the Scrum Master, who basically distributes all the work in specific teams. The teams which they have, like the engineering team, have a different work, developing team has a different work, the sales team has a different work. So these all works are decided by the Scrum Master, who distributes the work accordingly.
Got it. Okay, let's move on to the other ceremonies.
So, ma'am, after then there is a sprint retrospective also, in which the work they have done in one sprint. They review all the work that has been done in one sprint, and if there is a work that has been not been completed or anything, they all identify this in the sprint retrospective, and they try to complete it in the second sprint.
Okay. So retro, what are the other discussions they do in a sprint retrospective?
Ma'am, like they try to identify the bugs in they try to identify that what was not there in the what work was all there in the first sprint, and then they try to identify that is there anything missing, or was there any error in the first sprint. So it's basically the feedback and review of the first sprint that has been done in the sprint and retrospective.
Okay, what are the other ceremonies?
Uh,
Apart from, so you talked about sprint planning, sprint retro. Any
yes,
other
ma'am.
things is there?
Other, uh, ma'am, sprint stand-ups, where the Scrum Master keeps on taking the meetings regularly, so that he can update the teams with their work regularly. That's why the stand-ups are meetings are taken regularly.
So how often the daily scrum happens? When
It happens every day, ma'am, regularly. The stand-ups are done regularly every day, to take the update of how much the work is done and how much is remaining, how much is yet to be finished. So that's why the Scrum meeting is done every day.
okay, who and all will join in that meeting?
So, ma'am, the Scrum Master mainly, then the teams that are involved in the sprint, like the engineering team, development team, and everyone, basically everyone in the organization, because the work is distributed in every teams.
Okay, got it. So, are you aware about any ceremony like sprint review?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Sprint review. So
Okay.
sprint review is basically the review of the first sprint, like the requirements for the sprint. They review the requirements for the sprints, that are these requirements fulfilled for the first sprint. And if they are not, then they try to complete all the requirements in the ahead sprint.
Okay, understood.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Let us move on little bit. Okay. So, are you aware about Jira? Uh, are you know about the Jira tool?
Yeah, ma'am, I know about it, but not that much into depth. We have not gone into that to Jira in that depth till now.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Can you
Yeah,
please repeat it again?
yeah, ma'am, I know about the Jira tool, but we haven't moved into Jira that much depth till now.
Okay, understood.
Yes,
Are you
ma'am.
aware about the user stories,
Yes,
epics?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So, can you talk about what is epic? What are user stories?
So, ma'am, user stories, basically now I am here also. I am working on some user stories. So basically, ma'am, there is a roadmap for an organization. So roadmap is basically a strategic planning used for the organization for their growth. So user stories are basically, they describe the work of the end users in the point of view of the end users, and user stories are written in a depth like a story, so that we can understand that what are the requirements of the end users, and we can understand it uh, uh, what can I say? We can understand it properly, that what the end user wants. So that's why for that we write user stories. So like as a user or as an end user, what do I want so that I can get to know about the software more appropriately. So that's why we write user stories in a roadmap.
Okay, what about epic?
Ma'am, epics are basically the time of period, ma'am, of that user stories.
Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate a little more on that?
So, ma'am, epics and themes are like the user stories which we write. So, for what we are writing that, and in what period of time should those user stories be completed. So, that is basically epics and themes.
Okay. So, are you aware about what is story points?
Yeah, ma'am, the story points in the user stories, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So story points are basically that only, ma'am. Like if I give an example, so if I want to write story points or user stories on module checklist, so I need to see that whether the end user, we I need to write in the point of view or of a end user. So I'll basically create a user story points, like as a user I want a module checklist that updates frequently as soon as I complete my modules. So these are basically story points that are used to explain the point of view of the end users and also of the stakeholders.
Okay. Understood. How? Let's take an example. Okay. Say we have created a user story. Okay. Now, when we will actually assign. Okay. Before moving to that, I will check like when you last actually assign a story point to a user story. In which meeting you will do this?
Yes, ma'am, I didn't get you, ma'am. Can I?
So you will be assigning a story points for
Yes,
each and every user story. Correct.
yes,
So you have talked about multiple meetings, right?
yes, ma'am.
In that, which meeting we will go and assign the story point for that user story?
Uh, no, ma'am, this I don't have an idea about this.
Okay, will it be in the planning, during the planning only they will assign the story, or it will be on the Scrum, or it
Ma'am,
will be
it will be in the Scrum, ma'am.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Okay, let's go on to that. Now, so actually, it will not be on the Scrum when you are
Oh,
actually doing the sprint planning, right? That
okay.
time the story points will be there because you are going to start this before sprint planning, right? You
Yes,
will be
ma'am.
having one more meeting called refinement.
Okay.
Okay, in that only they will refine it and start adding the story points.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Now let's move on with our question. So now let's say we have a user story for our team. Okay, and then we have to estimate the user story. How do you do the story point? How a team will assign a story point to a particular user story? It will be an individual who will provide a story point details, or it is the responsibility of the whole team to provide a how this assigning a story point works.
No, ma'am, it will be the work of the whole team
Mm-hmm.
to assign the story points,
Mm-hmm.
because the user story consists of all the work by all the teams. So that's
Okay.
why it will be of the whole team work.
Okay. Are you aware about how this process of assigning story point works?
No, no, ma'am. The process I didn't go into deep into that.
Got it. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that should be fine. Yes.
Okay.
Cool. I think you almost I think on the agile and then the software life cycle we have covered little deeper topics. Now we will switch into more into HTML and CSS part.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am.
So so already you have created some assignments based upon that,
Yeah,
right?
ma'am. One static web page.
Okay. Can you share that
Yeah, ma'am.
to
Once.
us? And based upon that, we will be going ahead.
Yeah, ma'am. Is the page visible?
Yeah, it is visible.
Yes,
Cool.
ma'am.
Can you show the entire page?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that is really nice.
Yes, ma'am.
So now, before actually going into this static page discussion,
Yes, ma'am.
can you explain me about like what is HTML, what is CSS? Think I'm completely new and you are trying to explain me about it.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
So, ma'am, HTML is a extensive markup language basically, and it is used for creating web pages and putting the content into web pages. And CSS is cascading style sheet that is used to style the HTML content. Like if I give you an example, ma'am, like the if there is a car, so the car's blueprint or car's design will be the HTML content, and the outside body, when we put the outside body and everything to the car and we design it, that will be the CSS content. So basically HTML is used to put the content into the web page, and CSS is used to design that content appropriately in the web page.
Okay. So
Yes, ma'am.
can you talk about, so you mentioned about HTML as a markup language, right? What
Yeah,
is
ma'am.
markup language?
So, ma'am, markup language is basically language to create this static web page and thing and putting contents into it. So that's why we use HTML into it, and CSS is the designing thing.
Okay. What is the relationship between a HTML and the CSS? How it is related to each other?
How? No, ma'am, this one I
That's fine. That's fine.
get it.
If you're not aware of it, that is totally fine. You can tell. I do not have much idea. That is totally fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Uh, cool. So which versions have you used on the CSS side?
Which version exactly, ma'am?
What have you used any version out of it when you're creating your HTML file?
No, ma'am. Version, like, I didn't get it, ma'am.
Okay. Can you open your code?
Code.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
If it is already available, yes. Otherwise, it's okay.
This is the CSS coding, ma'am.
Okay. Fine. Say now I have a HTML document and I would like to apply the CSS. Say you have created a CSS outside, right?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
you want to apply that in my HTML document. What are the different ways I can apply the CSS into an HTML?
So, ma'am, there is internal CSS also. Like
Okay.
internal CSS, we can apply it directly in the HTML coding itself.
Okay.
And then there is external CSS, which I have applied for this web page. External CSS is basically a different coding page for the CSS in which there are only CSS codings.
Okay. So first is internal.
Yeah, ma'am.
Second, are there
Uh,
any other option is there?
External, and one more is there, inline CSS.
Okay. What is inline?
For inline, ma'am, I don't have any idea.
Okay. So which one do you prefer? There are multiple different ways, right? Which you prefer when you write CSS, applying a CSS in HTML? Do you go for inline, internal, or imported?
External CSS we prefer, ma'am, basically.
Why? Why so? What is the reason?
Because, ma'am, in internal CSS, sometimes the codings get changed or the content thing can get changed. And in external CSS, it gets more easier to change the CSS codes.
Okay. Okay, fine. Um, let's move on to your, probably you can show me the page which you have created.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So what are the different tags you have used in order to create this? Can you first explain this outline completely, what and all you have created, and then we can talk about that one by one.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, this first is the heading here, the header. And then this is the hero image I have used, in which there is the content inside. And then these are the applications for the program. These are small grids or cards, I can say, which I have used for different courses. And these are the footer parts used in this.
Okay, so in the web page, so
Yes,
you
ma'am.
have an internal, if you see here, there is a difference, right? There is a border, and then here you can see the complete frame. What
Yeah.
you have used to create for that frame?
Which frame, ma'am?
Outer frame. So the web page is complete web page, right? In that
Yeah,
an
ma'am.
outer frame you have created, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So which tag you have used to create that frame? And can you talk about that frame? The outer frame.
This, ma'am, where the arrow is.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, ma'am. So this is the for this I use margin, ma'am, margin tag.
Okay, can you talk about margin? What is margin?
So my margin is basically the outline border of the content. So we can give the space to the outside border and inside border accordingly. That's why we use margin tag.
Okay. So you mentioned about header and footer. Can you talk about headers and footers? Why we are using header and footer?
Okay. So ma'am, headers are basically the content which we want at the top of the our page, or the heading and everything which we want at the top. So that's for that we use headers like this heading.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used header for this. And footers are basically the content which we want at the below of the page. At the bottom of the page, we use
Mm-hmm.
footer tags for that, the content which we want to place at the bottom of the page. So we use footer tags for that.
Okay. So in the first image, whatever you are showing, right? There is a background image. On top of it, you have one more frame. And
Yes.
this frame is not completely, it's kind of little transparent, right?
Yeah.
So how you have implemented this? What is the tags you have used? And how that has been implemented?
So ma'am,
So
for
I just want to know the tag. Don't refer this, just
okay. So for the background image, ma'am, the background
I don't
image.
want the details about background image. What I want is after the background image, on top of it, you have one more section,
Yes.
right? And then that section is like kind of a transparent. Still, you are able to see the background image,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
How did you achieve it? What is the tag you have used for that?
So ma'am, for this I created a different container, and the background color I for that there was a code. In different container I put this content, and for this.
What I would like to understand is, so there is a background image which you have it, and top of it you have this lead, innovate, and transform, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct? But still you are able to, that is one more frame you have created, correct? But
Yes,
still you are
ma'am.
able to see the background image, which is little transparent. It's not completely visible, but it is kind of a little transparent, right?
Yeah.
If I'm putting a frame on top of another background, obviously it will hide it completely.
Yes.
Here it is visible. So how did you achieve that?
Ma'am, I forgot the name of the tag
That's
which I
that's
used,
fine.
ma'am.
That is totally fine. Okay. So all your if you see all your contents, whatever you have created, is on the center of the page, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you achieve this?
Ma'am, I used the tag called text align.
Okay.
And after text align, I aligned it into the center. That
Okay.
helps me to align the whole content in the center of the page.
Okay. Apart from center, what are the other values that text align provides?
Ma'am, it can be text align at the right or left.
Okay. Anything else? Or that's it?
Yeah, ma'am, that's it.
Okay. Can we go down a little bit more?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So can you talk about the difference between margin and padding?
So, ma'am, padding is basically the thickness inside the margin between the contents. Margin is basically the border of all the contents, and padding is basically the thickness between the contents, which keeps the distance between the content. And
Okay.
margin is basically the border of all the contents.
Okay. Fine. Um, so you have added multiple colors right here.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you achieve it? Like, suppose if I want to add a color,
Yes, ma'am.
what is that attribute and what is the value that will be assigned towards that?
So, ma'am, if you have a specific color that you want to add, so we can just go on Google or somewhere, and we can see for the color code of that code, and we can apply. We can first put a background color tag, and after that we can apply that color, specific color code that we want. And if we apply that specific color code, we can get that color on the background image.
Okay. Are you aware about grid layout? What is grid layout? How we can use it?
No, no. Yeah, ma'am. Grid layout. Yes, 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 ma'am. So
Okay.
grid layout is basically like if we want, if there are cards, like ma'am, these engineering, technology, law, medical, like I have written here now. So grid layout is basically if we want the cards in a grid type of form, like three up, three down, or two up, two down. So for that we use grid layout.
Okay. Can you go down little more?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's really awesome. Suppose, let's take a example. I want a frame, and that frame, say it's very small frame, but it has lot and lot of data that is getting displayed. So I want a scrollable option inside that frame. Are you aware of it? How I can achieve the
Mm,
vertical scrolling?
no, no, ma'am, no.
Okay. In case if I want to add any tables inside this, how I can achieve it?
Yeah, ma'am. So tables, there is a table option in the HTML coding in which we have to choose the rows and columns accordingly, and then we can insert a table inside this page. There is a table tag in HTML.
Okay. Now, can you suppose when you are opening, say you have mentioned about engineering and technology, law, medical, everything, right?
Yes, ma'am.
When I am moving my mouse over that and when I'm clicking on it, if it is giving me a drop down, right? How I can achieve that?
If it is giving a,
I would like to show a drop down with a list of values. How I can achieve this? Say here it is engineering and technology.
yeah,
If I move my mouse over this, it has to show me a list, like kind of a drop down.
yeah, ma'am.
And then it has to show a list of values. Maybe in engineering technology, you have different departments associated with
Yeah,
that. I
ma'am.
want to show all the departments. And then
Okay.
it has to give me an option to show that. How I can achieve that?
So, ma'am, there is a particular coding in CSS for that. I didn't study about it in depth till now.
Okay, understood. Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's do like a very quick exercise. We'll not go in depth of it, but very quick exercise. I want you the same page. Okay, I want you to change this color of this discover unique edge of flowers.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
this frame alone with a light blue color.
Okay.
Okay, and then the text has to be in a white color.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
Okay, and then I do not want all these. Okay, let's finish the requirement. First thing is I want to change the background color to blue,
Blue,
and
yes.
then the should be white. And I want to remove all these bullet points you have given here, right? I
Okay.
would like to remove all the bullet points over there.
And do you want any number or anything or nothing, ma'am?
No, nothing. I do not want to display any bullet points or any numbers. But when I move to each and every, uh, you have a list of items, right? But if I
Yeah.
move my mouse on the list of items, it should show me a hyperlink. Kind of, if I click on that, it should redirect. We will not work on the redirection part. It just need to show me like a hyperlink. That's it.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
Okay, that's nice.
Yes, ma'am.
I still want somewhat lighter blue. Can you achieve that?
Okay, okay. This is perfect, ma'am.
Perfect. Yeah.
Tell him to come back again. Hello, ma'am. This is Pranav. Sorry to interrupt. Uh,
Yeah.
so, Ramya is about to join this session. So, after yes, we can just go ahead and take the mock-up interview for Ramya also. Can we
Can you
do
give me some time? I will connect back again.
it? Okay, okay, sure, sure, sure. Done.
Maybe if it is fine after half an hour.
Okay, 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 done, done.
Yeah, ma'am. So this
Good.
is
Can
fine.
we? Yeah,
That's
that is
bullet
fine. Can we remove that this bullet points also?
bullet points. Ma'am, actually, I am not able to do that. I know about unordered list, order list, that bullet points I'll have to do again.
So are you aware like where exactly the changes are?
Yeah, ma'am.
Do you know like where is that change you need to do? I know you are not aware how to do it,
Yeah,
but where
ma'am.
exactly we need to do that change? Are you aware in this HTML page? Which place you need to do?
Yeah, ma'am. This here the section class unique edge thing.
Okay.
The changes should be done here in unordered list tags.
Okay, what is that unique edge class?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you check it out? What is this unique list edge class?
Unique edge class. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
In CSS, right?
So where it will be?
Here, ma'am. This is the unique edge here.
Okay. Fine. I think thanks, Ash. I think we are good now. We're almost at the end of this mock. So it was great talking to you, Yash.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
ma'am.
answering all the questions to you. Okay. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye, bye, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye bye.